Yep.
We're good?
YouTube's live, bro.
Okay.
Everything's Gucci.
So we are back again with Brian. What's up, man?
What's up, brother?
Okay, so I got some questions to ask you like before.
Mm.
So the first one is for real estate, and that is, what's the biggest lesson you've learned from a bad deal?
Take out the other mic and see if you could just like take it out and just put it on you. Is it green? Maybe turn it on.
This one. It's a light green, right? No, wait, no, it's blue.
There now. Here. Just triple check. Yeah?
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, so now the people can hear me now as well.
Yeah.
Willie, the videographer.
Willie the videographer.
Okay.
It's now on this bitch. Let's go.
All right, so what was my question again? All right, so what's the biggest lesson you've learned from a bad deal?
Ooh. The biggest lesson I've learned from a bad deal. Does it have to be real estate, Willie, the videographer?
No, it could be in any of your businesses that you have.
The reason why I'm saying if it could be outside of the real estate because I was blessed to have an experienced multimillionaire partner in all my real estate endeavors. So that being said, luckily we haven't been in a bad deal yet. And knock on wood. And I say yet, not because I want to sound negative, but because you always want to be prepared for the worst. Number one. Number two, you have to be realistic. There's always going to be one point where one bad deal compared to all the other ones is going to look like a bad deal, you know, or the worst deal rather. And to answer your question, a bad deal. That's a good question, man. I would say, oh, I'll tell you one. I have an ATM business,
Yeah.
and when I first opened up my ATM business, I wanted some recurring revenue where it wasn't going to force me to be there presently 24/7 all the time, and I could make money even while I sleep or even when I'm not in the office, you know? So I opened up the ATM business, and I had just one location, one ATM, and it was at a laundromat. And I was only seeing, let's say, like a $200, recurring monthly. And at the time, I was making around like maybe 25, $30,000 a year, a month rather, as a trainer. And I'm like, this is pocket change. I'm not gonna be stressing over $200 a month. Like that's not gonna do anything for me. So what I decided to do was I decided to I decided to like literally take out a credit card on my ATM business and put 30 new ATMs on that credit card. So I ordered 30 new ATMs, and this is literally without any locations. So I got I got 30 ATMs mailed into my apartment with no locations, and they all had to be set up and coded and all this shit. It literally looked in my apartment, it literally looked like it was an ATM shop. All lit up. It was crazy. It was not romantic at all. Anyways, it took me about 6 months to properly place all 30 ATMs in certain locations. So the ROI wasn't there. Did I say 30 ATMs? I'm sorry. I bought 10 ATMs. Excuse me. I bought 10 ATMs and I spent a total of $30,000. That's what I meant. I apologies. So I spent $30,000 with 10 additional ATMs on top of the current one that I have. So I had 11 ATMs currently right now. So at this time, I bought 10 and I spent $30,000 because I needed an ATM, I needed locations for each, all this shit. So it takes time setting up, it takes time coding, it takes time putting an ATM into location, vetting a certain location, and obviously properly end up seeing some 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 revenue monthly. So I think personally that was probably one of my worst deals and worst decisions, not because I am seeing some profit and seeing some money now, but it just took so long and I was literally spread thin and I was stressed for a whole year. Um, and I was stressed because I just had ATMs just there lying around for a whole year. So I would say that's probably my worst deal.
Okay, well, got it. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And another ATM question is, how do you negotiate with business owners to place machines in a spot? Because obviously you have to find a location where there's people currently passing by to make revenue. So if you have an experience with the business owners to put the ATM there, how did that work?
That's a good question. So, your question is how would I strike a deal with a business owner location for an ATM location?
Yes.
Got it. Well, first off, it's basically sales 101. You have to figure out what their problem is, what their pain point is, what their issue is. So, most business owners, their problem in the ATM space is the fact that they're paying extra charges for credit card transactions in their business. And that's eating up a lot of profit. And if they're not seeing profit, gross revenue in businesses. So, what I do as a problem solution is put an ATM in a location so that customers and clients are forced to utilize their credit card or debit card in an ATM, take out cash so that they can actually pay the business owner for their service or product or whatever they're selling. So that being said, the business location is not losing money on credit card charges. The client is paying the surcharge. I'm seeing profit through each credit card transaction. And if they're properly if they're properly, you know, negotiated a deal with me, if they properly negotiate a deal with me, maybe they'll see some a part of that revenue as well. So that's the issue and that's the solution. So how I would approach it is, hey, listen, like it seems like you have a lot of traffic coming into the location. I see there's no ATM. I see that there's like there's a sign saying mandatory minimum $10 if you're going to use a credit card. Those are like small little red flags in addition to other red flags if they are losing a lot of money or they don't want to pay that extra money for card transactions. So right there I would say, hey, like have you ever been 100% completely against having an ATM in this business? It could bring in new traffic, especially if it's a busy street. It can provide some convenience for the clients and for the customers because if it's raining and snowing and if they don't want to pay extra or if they don't pay or if they're paying under $10, they don't want to pay an extra amount of money just so that they can use their card. So then all of a sudden you're sending them to another location. They're not Most of the time they're not going to come back because of the convenience. And if they really want it and it's raining and snowing, it's not convenient for them. So they're going to be like, what the fuck? So most profitable ATMs and ATM locations are in the lower class and middle class because there's a lot more cash popularity there because of the demographics. So 9 times out of 10, they're gonna say, "Yeah, cool," but they're gonna say, "What's in it for me?" And that's where I'm just kind of like, well, listen, you get the traffic, you get the new traffic coming in, you get the convenience for the clients, you get client satisfaction, you got client, and then if they're really, really stern with that, then I'll see if I can finagle, a small little portion of a cut for them, um, increasing the surcharge, of course,
Hmm.
just so I could see some proper good ROI in it. But that's how I negotiate locations for my ATM business.
Nice, nice. Thank you for sharing. Um, so now this goes into real estate, and what kind of real estate gives you the best return?
What kind of real estate gives you the best return? There's multiple answers for that. So I'm currently in multifamily residential, and my partners are in residential. However, I'm sure if you speak to a commercial, broker or agent or owner, they're gonna say otherwise. Or even if it's hotels, if it's any type of lands, trailer parks. There's so many ways to get to the number nine. There's three times three, there's eight plus one. I wouldn't say there's a best. That's my answer.
Okay, so it's subjective. It just everybody's answer is different depending on what route they go with in the real estate. Okay,
Yes.
got it.
What's up, Carter? How we doing? We're talking about real estate and business and ATMs.
Hmm. So who do you look up to learn from? Because I know that you mentioned that you had a mentor yourself. So
Yeah.
how did you learn from that person?
Yeah, currently, my only mentor at the moment is a guy named Brian Mark. He is a personal trainer turned online coach turned online coaching mentor. And what he does is really help online coaches either start their business, scale their business, or expand their business. And I say expand because I'm at a point now where I already started my business years ago. I scaled my business years ago, and now I'm expanding because I have so many systems and moving parts where I cannot be in multiple spaces all at once. So I have to delegate my time elsewhere. Um, so I expanding my business. I'm hiring other employees to do certain tasks within my business. So he's teaching me doing that. He's teaching me how to do that, and it's been great. It's been a learning experience. Um, I've learned a lot already. He's extremely knowledgeable. He's a marketing genius, and I even told him when I met him up in Kelowna, Canada, was that he asked me, "Hey man, like, what sauce would you share to anyone who's thinking about scaling the business?" And I told him, I was like, hire a mentor. Doesn't even have to be him, but hiring a mentor will not only help you make some money, think about money, change your mindset, lead you, challenge you, but you can incorporate certain aspects and apply it to different businesses as well. So I even told him live on his channel that he's made me money not only in the online training space but in the in-person training space, in my mentoring space, in my ATM business space, in my real estate space. So it's been great. He's basically made me money in all endeavors. So
That's great. It's always nice to have someone in your circle that has the same interest and passion as you to help you along the journey.
yeah, absolutely,
And
absolutely.
for my last question, it's what's the biggest risk you ever took that paid off?
The biggest risk I've ever taken that paid off. Well, so far I took the risk on myself. I took the risk on myself. I'm not sure if I ever shared this story with you, Willie the videographer, but um, I was in school to become a physical therapist after graduating college with an exercise physiology degree, after being a personal trainer for a solid maybe 3 4 years, making some real money, working at a commercial gym, working at corporate gyms, working at different studios and running my own business. I remember I was convinced by my family, my girlfriend at the time, um, everybody who's important to me. They were convincing me to just go back to school and become a physical therapist because I was so technical in personal training, and my specialist at that time was like back issues, back rehab, knee issues, and I liked it, but I didn't see myself becoming a physical therapist. Plus, I had to go through like another 5 to 6 years of school. That was fucking ridiculous. So I was convinced. I love my grandparents to death. Most of you already know my story if you guys are, not new to my channel. But my grandparents raised me, and my grandparents all wanted me to be the first doctor in my family. So there was this one day midway through my semester of physical therapy. I'm driving out driving towards home, and I'm listening to Gary Vee. And Gary Vee, I felt like he was fucking talking to me, literally face to face. He was just like, "Listen, you need to stop living the dreams of your mom, of your grandparents, of your girlfriends. They're being selfish and trying to force you on their dream when you should be living your own life and making your own decisions." And that hit me hard. I was like, I'm making and choosing a life altering decision based on my parents and my grandparents because they want me to do this, and they want me to do it because they couldn't do it themselves. And now I'm the fucking victim because I'm forced to do it. And I'm here thinking, like, fuck them. And Gary Vee's like, fuck them. And I'm like, bro, I kid you not. I'm in the middle of the highway. I put my emergency lights on. I pull over to the curve, and I'm like, yo, am I really gonna do this? Am I really gonna bet on myself? And I kid you not, I go to my college portal and I drop out of college, essentially, of graduate school, and I decided to start a Barca Fitness right there and then. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna bet on myself. I'm gonna start my own business, and I'm going to become rich. And I'm gonna be more successful than anyone in my family. And that's exactly what I did. And I kid you not, the irony is the people, my friends, family, girlfriends, whoever, the ones that were telling me to become a physical therapist, they're the ones looking at me for advice, for money advice, for job advice, for career advice, for real estate advice, when they're the ones just not too long ago, just 10 years ago, were telling me to do XYZ because they thought it was fit. That's the irony, and that was the biggest risk I've ever taken, and it did pay off because that's made me, the man that I am today, the successful entrepreneur that I am today, and yeah, can't complain.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brian, for the wonderful tips and advice and just telling us more about your multiple multiple businesses and what you've learned and done throughout the years. Thank you.
Absolutely, bro. Yesterday was Mother's Day, and I was at the gym, and I noticed the amount of women and moms who were at the gym. So I was, I started conversations with them, and I asked them. I was like, "Hey, man, like, are you doing anything for Mother's Day?" And she's like, "No, my kids are graduated, or my kids are young. I'm not gonna do anything. I have to hit the gym, and I'm not gonna I'm not going to tiptoe around this. They were overweight. They were unattractive. They looked like they lost themselves, and they weren't loving themselves. And what I mean by that is like they let themselves go, right? Physically. And to think that they were all single and or divorced, they didn't have a partner there. And to think that they're searching for a lifetime partner still, yet they are not loving themselves. And by loving themselves, I mean they're not eating well, they're not prioritizing exercises, they're not trying to be the best version of themselves physically and mentally. So if you're not loving yourself, how the fuck do you expect an outside party to be a lifetime partner love you? You don't love yourself and you expect the other person to love you unconditionally. How the fuck does that make sense? They're delusional. They are delusional. And I'm being as raw as possible here because these are the type of women who say that, hey, like I'm okay with my body, I'm confident, but like no you're not. And I'm not targeting the woman who specifically I saw at the gym because obviously they showed up to the gym and they are loving themselves, but it makes me realize that there's a lot of single moms while I was scrolling on Instagram that they don't have a partner and they have like 3 or 5 kids and they're either too young or too old to even spend time with their with their kids and having them be taken out, but like if they had a partner they would be taken out by their partner, and they don't have a partner. Why? Because they can't find love, and if they can't find someone who loves them, they're wondering why and they're blaming men. And it's like, no, you should look at the mirror and have some self accountability. You're not loving yourself. You need to love yourself so that you can be loved. So what do you think about that, Willie?
I think you're right. You can't take care and love someone if you don't love yourself. And I kind of have this conversation with my friend because he's very one of my close friends. He's very emotional, intelligent.
Mm.
So like we will talk about this, and like you mentioned that you don't need someone, or like we'll go back and like debating if you need someone to bring out the best version of yourself. And sometimes we're 50-50 because having a partner can bring out the best in you.
Yeah.
But then again, you shouldn't have someone to bring out the best in you. You should do that for yourself because you want to be better for you,
Right.
not for someone else. So I feel like that's always a open-ended answer because everybody's perspective is different, and I'm kind of 50-50 on that as well. Obviously, I don't want to be in a relationship because financial wise, emotional wise, I want to be in a certain place in my life, physically, financially, spiritually, mentally,
Mm.
before I get into a relationship. So that's just my thought on that.
That's smart.
Hmm.
Cool. Yeah, I just had to say that out just because it was Mother's Day yesterday, and I saw a lot of single moms out there. And for any single moms who are wondering why, it's because you need some self accountability and you need to be self-aware that you're not loving yourself and you cannot expect someone else to love you
Mm-hmm.
because there's a lack of self-love. And by self-love, I mean you're not showing up to for yourself at the gym, you're not eating well, you're letting yourself go, and you will die alone if you don't do anything about it. So, yeah. Cool.
Yes, sir.
Cut. Warmed up. Let's do it.